If you shoot photos or videos regularly, then filters are pretty unavoidable. And the issue is, on a real shoot, switching out an ND filter or a polarizer can take a lot of time of screwing, unscrewing, having to put away the filter, and by that time you might have missed the shot. So when KNF Concept sent me over their magnetic filter kit set, I was really excited to test it out. I wanted to know one thing: do magnetic filter kits really work? And secondly, do they not ruin the image? So today I'll show you what I like about this magnetic filter kit set, what I don't like, and whether it's worth picking up for yourself. Hi, my name is Bruno Pozo. I'm a commercial filmmaker here in Bend, Oregon, and I make weekly videos on filmmaking technique, gear reviews, and how to make money with your camera. If any of that interests you, hit that like and subscribe. Now, onto the review. First, let's talk about what's in the kit. With KNF, they actually send over the kit in this nice little knitted protective case. And I really appreciate this because one, it's going to protect your filters from any scratches or smudges. And two, I love having things a little more organized. And so having everything compact together in one little case is really convenient. Inside, you'll find the magnetic adapter ring, the CPL filter, the VND filter, the black mist filter, and the lens cap. And what I really like is that you can stack these in any order that you like. And so depending on your shoot, you can have a CPL and the black mist, or you can just have the black mist. Or if you need the CPL and the VND, you can have those two together. Or if you just want the VND, you can just have that. And because it's magnetic, it makes it super easy to swap and customize the setup to your needs. Now, stacking the filters is great, but it only really works if the filter doesn't spin or move when you're attaching them on and off. And that's where the design of the CPL filter does come in handy. And so you'll notice on the top here, you do have a knob, and the knob allows you to actually lock the position of this filter. And this does two main effects. Number one, it ensures that when you set the polarizer into the position that works for your shot, it doesn't move by accident. And number two, as you attach more filters on, it's not gonna move and rotate by accident as well. It's a small detail, but it actually has come in quite handy on my shoots. Next, let's talk about the VND, because this is where a lot of cheaper filter kits actually fall apart. The first thing I really appreciate about this variable ND filter is that it locks into place with the CPL. So there's only one orientation that actually works. It creates hard stops from 1 to 5. And so you actually aren't going to get any X patterns in your image like some cheaper VNDs out there. And 1 to 5 stops is usually more than enough, especially if you're at f4 and maybe sometimes f2.8 depending on the outdoor situation. Let's finish off the kit with the black mist filter. The black mist filter comes in different strengths, but I chose the one at 1/4 because personally, I'm not a big fan of the black mist and what it does to an image. I find it can be a little too soft and a little too low contrast. But that's just personal preference, and it really sort of depends on the shot and mood that you're going for. Now, you could go stronger like half black mist filter, which they do have, but I really do think that the 1/4 is a good balance. So I really love the magnetic swappability of this filter kit set. In the field, it's turned out to be really easy to use and fast, which is exactly what you want, especially if you do any sort of high intense work like events where you can't miss a moment. But speed doesn't really matter if the image constantly is shifting in color. So let's go over some of the color cast tests that I ran. Color cast was a big question for me because I just don't like when I put off variable ND filter and all of a sudden your image is washed out in green or orange. And so I wanted to see if these ones, which are the Nano-Xcel series from KNF, which are considered their more high quality filters, whether they had a heavy color cast like some of their cheaper filters. Let's start with the indoor test. Here's the image with no filter. You'll see that the colors look balanced, everything looks normal, but let's start with CPL. I did notice when I put on the CPL, the saturation increases quite a bit, which can be a pro or a con depending on your needs. But this is also sort of expected because CPL filters do reduce some of the glare and add some richness to usually the greens, but in this case, I felt like it warmed up more on the reds. Now let's add the CPL and the VND at its minimum strength. Here you can see it slightly warms up. You'll see it go more towards the red and magenta side, And surprisingly, the saturation just dips back down closer to where it was without a filter. When I switch the variable ND to the max intensity, there isn't much of a shift. If anything, it might actually get a little more contrasty, but that might just be the way the exposure shifted because I had to increase the lights quite a bit to really use this test indoors to match the same exposure as the rest of the shots. And finally, when you add the black mist filter, for some strange reason, it added a ton of warmth to the image. So it got a lot more orange and red. This was really shown in the waveform, but you can also see it just looking at the image straight ahead. Now, I was worried that this might be an artifact of doing the test indoors, so I did the test outdoors on a really cloudy day. And here are the results. No filter, once again, looks balanced, everything looks normal. Once you add the CPL, there actually doesn't seem to be any noticeable shift, and I did try to rotate it to remove any glare, but ultimately it didn't really add much of a cast. Now with the VND at minimum, there's maybe a slight red and magenta shift. It's very subtle, it's hard to see in the waveform, but in the image I do notice it. And finally, when I do add the black mist, it of course lowers the contrast a bit, but it also seems to dampen the saturation a tiny bit, and so it does get closer to how it looks without the no filter. And this was really surprising because it seems like outdoors, the color cast almost completely disappears. So it makes me wonder if the red magenta shift I was seeing indoors is only intensified because of this room. It does have a wood ceiling, and so maybe the way the light's bouncing off and there is more orange and red tones in the scene in general, that you're seeing more of that cast indoors, but outdoors when there's not just a ton of red in the scene, you're not really getting that same intensification. And that might just be from the CPL filter mainly. Whatever the reason, I have found that there is very minimal, if any, color cast coming from these ND filters, and so I really appreciate them. And my last complaint about this filter is that there is a bit of a learning curve, if you will, with using them. And what I mean is that when you're trying to take off just one filter, it can be a little tricky. I have found myself many times just trying to take off one filter and taking off 2 or 3 filters. When you do lock the CPL, it makes this a little bit easier, but I have noticed as I've used it more, my finesse and ability to just control and grab the magnetic filters I want has become easier. It's not a deal breaker by any means, but more something that you just gotta get used to. So take that with what you will. So who is this kit for? K&F is generally seen as the budget brand, but this is from their Nano-Xcel series, which is more of their higher end filters. And compared to other magnetic filter kits like from Nisi, Freewell, or Polar Pro, this kit is much more affordable and still performs extremely well. The largest size they have is 82 millimeters, which is the one I went for, but even so, it's only $140. This is usually the price of just one filter from some of the other brands I just mentioned. And so the fact that you're getting 3 filters for this price is a great deal, and the magnetic feature of them is definitely a step up from the traditional screw-on filters out there. So the value here is very hard to ignore. If you're building your kit and want a faster workflow, then I do think the K&F Concept Magnetic Filter Kit is a great deal. Now, I'm curious, do you guys use any magnetic filter kits yourself? If you do, share them in the comment section below because I would love to learn and see what are the other options out there and how they hold up to real world use. If you liked this gear review video, you can check out my C50 First Impressions review here. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. I appreciate every single one of you who do, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.